Before we get to today's guest, I just want to let you all know that CityWorks Expo 2017 is coming up October 5th through 7th in Roanoke, Virginia. We're really excited about the group of speakers we put together for this year, and we've got a number of exciting activities and additional resources we're looking forward to bringing to the table as well. So I hope you'll take a look at our website, cityworksexpo.com, or check us out on Facebook. And just take a look, maybe get yourself a ticket. We'd love to have you guys down to Roanoke. Or check out the fellowship program, which includes a free ticket, but also has access to a number of resources and mentorship opportunities that we're putting together. So thank you all for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoy it today. And please do give us a rating and review in iTunes or wherever you're listening to this, and reach out if you have any questions. Hope to see you come October, but in the meantime, have a great day.
Please listen carefully.
Welcome to the Big Ideas for Better Places podcast from CityWorks Expo. My name is Brad Stevens, and I'll be your host today. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our guest, Mr. Rony Jalkh, who is a fellow with the Project for Public Spaces, but has been doing work all over the world. So how are you today, Rony?
I'm great, Brad. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, you're originally from Lebanon and Beirut, is that right?
Yes, I'm from Beirut. I live in Beirut, but I am originally from the Mount Lebanon, a part of Lebanon. It's in the middle of Lebanon.
Okay. Well, you are our second guest that's come from overseas. You are in New York right now, but I'm really intrigued to hear kind of your perspective as we get into this. But you've kind of been dealing with this placemaking work for a while now, and I wonder if you could kind of tell us how you kind of define what the work is that you do.
I've been working on placemaking like a couple of years since now. But I've been working with UN Habitat and many other organizations for more than 12 years in Lebanon, working on urban issues and working with the community, working with local authorities as well. I can define my actual work on placemaking, which is conducting courses and lectures and workshops in universities throughout my home country. I can define it as a mission, especially in a country like Lebanon, where there is a big lack of public spaces. In addition, the public spaces, it's not a priority for local leaders in Lebanon who do not see it as an urging issue. And they don't see even the importance of the participatory approach as a key component of successful projects. So as an activist and practitioner of placemaking, and mainly I'm focusing my work in disadvantaged neighborhood, my work aims to increase the provision of public spaces through promoting placemaking as a methodology, as tools, as a strategy, promoting this concept within the students, instructor, municipality leaders, community, within civil society organization, and even the private sector and other related ministries in Lebanon.
Well, I'm really interested because a lot of times here in the U.S., I think there are people that look down on placemaking and say that's not as important as some other issues. And you've kind of tied in some of your work this idea of placemaking and peacemaking as being very related. And I wonder if you could talk about how you think those two work together and why you think placemaking is perhaps more important than many people think it is.
In fact, the idea behind adopting this placemaking for peacemaking, like a concept or title, is based on the challenges I was facing in Lebanon. Especially now in Lebanon, we have a lot of Syrian refugees, and some kind of tension is increasing in public spaces in Lebanon between host community and the Syrian refugees. So I started like a research on how placemaking can lead to peacemaking. Like for me, placemaking is connecting people to people and connecting people to the place. And peacemaking as well is connecting people to people. And this connection of peacemaking, when we connect people to people, needs a physical place where people can express their willingness to be together in a peaceful way. In other words, I can say that the connection peacemaking hopes to forge can only succeed if the process is implemented in a physical place where people can express their connection in a practical way. Like placemaking, peacemaking is more than an idea. It's a process that aims to change people's attitude and behavior and to transform dynamics between individuals and groups in order to achieve a peaceful coexistence in a specific place. Again, placemaking and peacemaking are both a process of behavior changing, of people attitude changing. And I can say that the only difference that is between placemaking and peacemaking is only one letter. So if we replace the E with an I in peacemaking, we can begin to work towards ensuring sustainable peace among the different community groups. So I think this is the link could be in between placemaking and peacemaking. And for me, peacemaking can lead to placemaking, and placemaking as well can lead to peacemaking. I don't know if I can explain, because placemaking is based on participation, and when you participate people, when you bring people together, participate together in one cause, in one activity, the participation will build trust, and the trust will lead to peace. Okay? Mm-hmm. And placemaking as well can lead to placemaking through trust. So when you start bringing people together and building trust among them, this will encourage them to participate. And when they participate with each other, this is placemaking process. So it's really like two ways approach, in building good communities, and well-being in the community.
It's so fascinating. I think it's, this idea that placemaking is really about people connecting with people, I think is really something that we undersell sometimes when we talk about placemaking. It's really a compelling way to look at it, and the way that you describe involvement is absolutely key to this, I think is crucial as well. I'm just really, I'm going to be thinking for a long time, I think, about that idea of placemaking being connecting people with people.
Yeah, it's very simple, it's just let them be together. It's not about division. It's about like building bridges between them, and this is essential. It is in placemaking. So the placemaking concept is based on participation and aims to bring people together in one place. And this is, I think, the same objective of peacemaking as well, is bringing people together, in a peaceful way.
Well, it's interesting as well, because I think that often, there are many issues that we need to take on, thinking from a very U.S.-centric perspective. There's segregation, and there's income inequality, and there's job placement, and there's, a number of different issues, food insecurity, a lot of these things that happen around the world, but also here. But I think that kind of what I'm hearing here is that in order to fix any of those, we have to get people together. And that's what makes peacemaking and placemaking both so important, is that's one of the first steps to getting any of these places, is to make sure that we can talk to one another and that we have a place to be together.
Yes, indeed. I agree 100% with you. This is very simple. We don't have to think about big project. It's just let them be together. Sometimes we put some obstacles between people, some ideas for division. But let them be together. If you go to a public space, you can see different people from different, especially kids from different community groups. They play together. They don't think about races. They don't think about religious. They don't think about like social and economic level. Like let's be a child, and I think this is the way. Yeah.
Well, so when you're working in some place like Lebanon, that we see that as very different from us here. But I wonder what you kind of think are the components, or what do you think it means to create a quality urban space? Is there something universal, or is that contextualized, or what kind of goes into that?
Yeah, but I would like to highlight more on how we can placemaking be used to facilitate peacemaking
Okay.
before
Okay.
getting to your question now, because placemaking as well creates inclusive places that aim to reduce discrimination and social tension, as you cited now, among segregated communities. And as Holly White explains in The Social Life of Social Urban Spaces, he said, what attracts people most is other people. Indeed, people need people. We all need each other, whomever that the other is. And I think placemaking encouraged the other to find a place where he can feel welcome and respected. And I think that's it. So it is about like having good public spaces, and this is what I can talk about the importance of creating public spaces, quality urban spaces, or quality good public spaces. So back in Lebanon, when we have a lack of public spaces, or where even we don't have even spaces, because when we talk about crowded neighborhood with host community, with refugees, so we don't even have spaces. So especially in deprived neighborhood, there is a big need to create quality urban spaces. Does mean that because people need a place to breathe clean air, need a place to good places to rest, to interact, to socialize. And the quality urban spaces is a place where people like to be, a place that people care about. I'm not talking only about the physical aspect of the place. The physical aspect is important, to have a good infrastructure. An infrastructure should be welcoming, but we have to think as well about the activity in the public space, how we can activate the public space in a way to turn it into more attractive and more inclusive public space. So it is about the physical space and the attraction. For that, we talk about creating quality urban spaces. It's not only about the physical, the infrastructure of the space, but it is a combination between the physical, the infrastructure, and the activity running in these spaces.
So really, in some ways, you could create the most beautiful, welcoming space in the world, but if there's no people in it, and if there's no interest in being in it, then it's not working.
Yeah. Could be beautiful, but couldn't be welcoming, couldn't be like functional, and like if I go there, I feel it is very beautiful, but I cannot like touch the lawn, I cannot sit in the benches. So should be welcoming, should be happy, should be attractive, and not inclusive. This is what we call inclusive.
So how do you kind of make it so that people from across cultural boundaries will find that same place attractive? So that do you require different activations, or are there activations that you find work across different boundaries?
Yes, we have a lot of ideas about that, but again, it's a combination between the physical place, the infrastructure of the space. Sometimes we can see. I went to one of the public park here in New York, and we have a kind of division between. So within the park, we have a big like kind of small mountain there. So, and this kind of physical, obstacle can push people to be on side or the other of the park. You mean what I mean? So the parks should be like open, should be very so functional in a way. You can use it. You cannot like be in any corner hidden and like away from the other groups. This is one. Two, a lot of what we call triangulation, a lot of activities could be done within the public space in a way to to attract different people together. For example, if we have somebody playing a kind of musical instrument in the park, this can attract me and can attract another people, and this could start a discussion. Or, for example, a playground, a playground for the kids. If I go with my kids there, I can meet other parents through my kids, because my kids will meet other kids, and I will meet the parents of these kids. So we have a lot of activities that can attract different people together and don't discriminate other people. Like, I don't know if you got me.
I think so. And so, in some ways, what I'm kind of hearing is this idea that there are universal experiences that every community takes part of, that every cultural community. For instance, one of those being we all have children and we all want those children to play. And so by creating a place where children can play, we create a place where those people can come together.
That's it. Yeah. So other than that, we can create something attractive for like food. Food could be something very attractive for everyone. Music can be something attractive for everyone. Like any kind of activity that can, attract different community groups is welcomed in this. For that, I'm talking about like activation, how to activate public space. Like many public spaces are very good, well designed, very beautiful, but they are not like attractive because there is nothing there. So you can go there, you can stay for 10 minutes. After that, you have to go home. So,
well, I'm intrigued as to like, so, in the United States, and I think in many communities, there's cultural stigma against some people using a space or other people using a space. So I'm thinking here in town, we have a beautiful public space downtown that a lot of people don't want to go to because the homeless population is often there. And so, there's this stigma about that. And, I wish we could just get over that stigma and just come to be together. But how do you kind of make it so that people see those places and they want to be there so much that they don't mind, or they even come to embrace the fact that there are people that they wouldn't normally be around in that space?
Using public spaces is a culture that differs from a country to another. But all the countries, I think, and all the people appreciate the importance of having public spaces, even if they don't use it, or their behavior in the public space seems to be different. And this could be easily observed in cities like New York, where we can see different community groups together in public space, like park, children's, or playground. But so often these groups are not mixed together. They are in the same place together, but they have their own behavior and culture about using public space. I think we have to start like breaking this kind of obstacles between them by presenting different culture. So sometimes like Hispanic that don't use the public space at the African American way. So that everybody has his own way. But so the challenge remains on how bringing them together. It's important to invite them, to encourage them, and not to push them to interact. So this kind of interaction shouldn't be pushed. It should be like encouraged from others. So we can make like some activities. Like for example, we can ask any non-profit organization working on activities for, I don't know, they have a lot. Sometimes we have reading, sometimes we have some music activities, so we can present the culture of the other, like Chinese music, African music, so we can invite the other to know more about our culture. And I think this is the way to do it. Because the placemaking, the mission of placemaking is, when we have different community groups, is to engage them. When you engage them in a common cause, they seek together to accomplish a good result. It means, so when we have to start involving the different community groups in like sometimes in doing a cleaning up day, in doing painting, in volunteering work. When you engage different community groups, they will learn more about others during the volunteering work, during the activity they are doing. they it's just create any activity that can bring them together. Could be music, could be food, could be something recreational, could be something about reading some stories, or even like volunteering work, cleaning, painting, planting. These kind of activities, this will bring people together in one cause, and once they are together, they will accomplish a good result.
Well, and I just point out my favorite one of these activities may be sports as well, so I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like when you think about a place, you mentioned some of the parks in New York City, and you obviously have experience in your own neighborhoods in Lebanon. But how do you think places differ when you're trying to create a great space in Lebanon versus in the U.S.? How do those places differ, and does the process differ in creating them?
The public spaces in Lebanon have a lot of issue, because during the Lebanese war, public spaces were the most affected spaces where people avoid to be in. And in the post-war period, they remained neglected and misused. And if we talk about the metropolitan area of Beirut, the greater Beirut, which is hosting almost 64% of Lebanese population. So 64% of the Lebanese population live in the area, or the metropolitan area of Beirut. These neighborhoods suffer from urban poverty with narrow and paved streets and lack of public spaces. So in addition to high concentration of Lebanese population in these cities, these areas are accommodating a large number of refugees and migrant workers, because in Lebanon we don't have legal camps, refugees camps. So the Syrian refugees, which is now 2 million Syrian refugees in Lebanon, for a population of 4 million, it's huge. They are everywhere in the cities. So they are especially in the deprived neighborhood, because they can afford the rental fees of the small units they are living in. So these areas are undergoing various dynamics and social fragmentation that lead to many changes in the public spaces, and this is contributing to socioeconomic and political tension, within society. So this is like, as I always say, the public space is like the window. You can see through it all the interaction between the community groups in one neighborhood. So the public space can reflect all, if there is any tension, can reflect any kind of good interaction as well between the different community groups. So this is actually what is the current situation of the public spaces in Lebanon. And it's good to mention that Lebanon is very, 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 very small country related to US, and so that is even we don't have a lot of spaces, to transform them into public spaces. So sometimes we're using the streets, sometimes we're using the rooftops of the buildings. So we don't have a lot of spacey areas, to build more parks or gardens or playgrounds or such.
We'd like to take a moment now to say thank you to our sponsors today. The Urban Affairs and Planning program at Virginia Tech School of Public and International Affairs offers an interdisciplinary approach to understanding planning and policy for megaregions, cities, suburbs, and rural regions in the U.S. and abroad. UAP faculty have expertise in urban planning, architecture, urban design, economics, geography, political science, law, technology, and engineering, and provide students with a multifaceted understanding of how communities grow and change. Students apply their knowledge and professional skills by participating in real-world problem-solving with community clients through project-based studios and applied research. UAP emphasizes technical analysis and policy evaluation in approaching the complexities of modern communities. So big thanks today to the Urban Affairs and Planning program down at Virginia Tech for being our sponsor. If you'd like to hear more, check them out online. But without further ado, we'll get back to today's guest. Thank you. It's so fascinating because on some level, I think you guys are perhaps changing faster than any population in the world. Then it sounds like it's, you've got all of a sudden an infusion of 2 million people that weren't there a few years ago, and it's that's an incredible struggle to have to overcome.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how it's working, but it's working till now. So with a lot of hidden, tension, and so let's keep hoping.
Well, I wonder that there's still, obviously conflict, and as you mentioned, hidden tension, and there's all these feelings that we don't quite know how we feel about a lot of things. So how do you what is the role of, I guess, public space in trying to overcome that conflict or to make these communities grow together? Do you need them to grow together, or how do you kind of use this space to overcome conflict?
I don't know if I will say I want them to grow together, because we, as Lebanese, I think the only good solution for them is to go back to their country, and this is their right to go back to their land. But for me, at least, they are there for a while, and it's even if so we have two choices: either to make a division between the host community and the refugees, and this will lead to tension and to political tension within the society. Or either we can ask them to be together, to live together, and to share the same place together, because they both need these spaces, to breathe good air and clean air, and for recreational activities for their kids, because they are living in a small, very small units. So they need this for this public. So they both need for this public space, and they both need to have good public spaces, like well maintained, clean, all this stuff. So we will start by working on the basics and common needs between them, and I think they are here. It's better for them to live in a good condition, and this is as well the need of the host community to have, to have a well-being of the community, and healthy community, and spaces for beautification and good condition in the city.
It just raises so many fascinating questions about this sense of, this is home for, some of these Syrian populations, but only home for hopefully a small portion of time before they go back to their real home. But at the same time, you want them to feel at home, and you want them to feel like this is a place that they can enjoy and have some joy in life there, even though it's not obviously where they would choose to be otherwise.
And indeed, and it's important, when you involve Syrian refugees, and in a cleaning up activity, for example, this is like a way to show to the Lebanese that they care about the city. They are not here only to put mass everywhere. They are here to help you cleaning your city, to help you painting, to help you planting. So this is a good way, when you involve them, when you include them in your activity, this is a way that you can show to the Lebanese that they can be part of, improving the condition, the good condition of the city.
Well, again, it goes back to that once these people actually meet, it kind of changes the whole dynamic of the relationship in many ways.
Of course. That's it. But we have, like I said before, either you work on the vision, either you work on inviting them, bringing them together, and sometimes in Lebanon, municipalities are taking some measures, like sometimes that can increase this kind of division between the two community. For example, in many municipalities, they are doing a curfew. They are not allowing the Syrian to go out, during the night, or sometimes they are restricting them to use the like doing 2 shifts, in the public garden, morning time for the Lebanese and the afternoon shift for the refugees. I know this is like, for them, it's they want to avoid any kind of tension between the two communities. But for me, it's not the way. If you want to avoid any kind of tension, you have to bring them together. You have to let them know more about the culture, know more about themselves. This is the way they will start respect each other. It's not by dividing them. It's the opposite. It's by bringing them together.
Well, it's such a fascinating challenge, and it's one where I think that we see that public spaces are some of the only places where that can happen. In some ways, it seems like that there's, we want to say that people can see each other in their homes, but that doesn't seem as likely. So really, by creating these great urban spaces, or by doing placemaking, is how you actually get those together. And yes, there may be some discomfort originally, I imagine, but that's the only way to get past things, to create a sustainable solution in some ways, it sounds like.
Yeah, sure.
But I wonder, like you've talked a little bit about how Beirut has large sections of town that don't have very much money. It's an impoverished community in many ways, but that placemaking at times can. I imagine there are people that suggest this is not a great use of money to spend on creating a public space like this, to paint this area, or to bring a band in, or to bring food in here. How do you kind of respond to someone that doesn't think that placemaking is an effective use of funds?
Yeah, I definitely agree. If you want to do things like very fast, indeed, placemaking process is not a good use of money and of time as well. But if you want to do something sustainable, placemaking is a good use of money. A project will not succeed and won't be sustainable if they are not done in a participatory approach. Investors think that they know everything, they know better than the community, and placemaking things in the opposite way. For placemaking, the community is the expert, so they know more about their needs. They live there, they live in the community, they work there, they walk there, they play there. So they spend all the time there. So the community is the expert. They know better than us. So when you involve them in finding solution to their problems, believe me, these solutions will be sustainable ones. Participation through placemaking is really an essential tool to make planning and to make planning and urban governance, responsive and transparent and accountable. So, in one word, we can say it sustainable. So this is when we talk about a governance, responsive governance or good governance, it is something about sustainability. So if we want to do something sustainable, we have to involve the community to work on participation. And this is, I think, the process and the approach of placemaking.
Well, it's such a different perspective than we take most of the time, that we want to have an easy fix, that we want to slap a Band-Aid on something and have it be done. But really, that's not, as you say, a sustainable answer. So it is. No. But I think that it's also hard, I think, on some level, because I think placemaking requires people to give up some level of control, and that's not always an easy thing as well, is it?
No, at all. Especially when we about local governments or leaders, or I don't know. And in Lebanon we have a lot. So in one neighborhood you can meet the leader of the party, local party, local community. So we have a lot of hats. in Lebanon. So sometimes it's not easy, it's very challenging to go through this process, because you have to include all, and you have to include them in the same level. And this is sometimes it's not acceptable by some leaders wants to be the on the top, others should be more involved. So it's not easy at all, but we have to go through it, because if you have to plan for sustainable solution, you have to go through it. This is the only way you get there.
Well, I imagine it's this tightrope in some ways of like walking the line to make everybody happy, but also pushing it so that we kind of get outside of the box of what we've always done, which is like this really delicate walk in some ways.
Yeah. Indeed.
This in the U.S. anyway, there's often talk that placemaking comes from government factors, and I don't know how much that's the case in Lebanon, but I wonder if you could talk a bit about what the role of government versus non-governmental actors in trying to create these places and trying to create these people connecting with people moments.
For me, it's very clear that the local governments they have to lead this approach, this process, because they are the responsible of the local development, and they are responsible for the local intervention. It is a part of their mandate. But they need to know that participating the community is a key element for any successful governance. So good governance means good participation of the community in finding solution, to the urban issues. And placemaking promotes this good governance and improves local authorities and community awareness in participation and in social inclusion. Again, the local government should be the leader, but should be supported by the civil society organization and not replaced by them. So and involving or supported by the civil society organization, this is a kind of participation, So the role of non-governmental actors is to activate the participation process, is to feed in it, and to encourage as well the community to be more involved and even to advocate for the community participation. I think the non-governmental actors should be a link between the local governments and the community. They can advocate for participation, for the community participation, and in the same time they can support the community on how to be represented, on how to participate as well. So I think, and the know-how of the non-governmental actors is not to replace, the role is not to replace the local government, it's to support the initiative, to encourage the local government, to take the participation as a process, and as well to encourage the community to participate, in this process.
Well, I'm intrigued to know, if you've seen cases where the government is not willing to take that up, how you can kind of, how these non-governmental actors can encourage or kind of kickstart that process in some ways. Is that something that you've seen before?
Yeah, for example, in Lebanon, the local mayor, so the municipal mayor has more authority than the president of the republic in Lebanon. So he has a lot of authority, but sometimes he doesn't want to work, or even if he wants to work, he will do it by himself. He doesn't want to participate the community. So sometimes, and so often, they delegate their mandate or their responsibility to a local NGO working there. So they are doing everything in the. But as activists, I'm always pushing or encouraging the mayor, to take the responsibility, and remembering him about his mandate, remembering him about his role in the local development of his community, of his city. So, and in the same time, so often many local NGOs, they like to replace the government, the local government. So so it is, it's a win-win situation. So I don't want to work, so you can work on you can replace me. No, this is not the way. You have to work, you have to lead, and we are here to help you, to give you more ideas, to activate your process, to encourage the community to participate. And so this is the only by like what we call the segregation of duties. Everything should be clear in one process, and we don't have to step on each other's feet. So we have to have our mandate and the clear, tasks to do. We're not here to replace, the others.
Well, it's really fascinating in terms of it's in some ways what you're describing to me seems like a place where we really need our leaders to cast a vision, that they have to really take the leadership role, or else this is not a system that's going to work. We need people that are willing to say this is what needs to happen and then make it happen in some ways.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to know what those conversations when you're telling the mayor that he needs to get on it look like.
Sometimes I have like magic words that I can use with them, and I know how to deal with them.
Well, I would love to know what those magic words are, because
I don't know if this word can work in US, but in Lebanon I can guarantee 100%.
Well, very good. I'm intrigued to know kind of, you've been to a number of places. You've spent some time in New York. You've spent some time in different places in Lebanon, and I think you've traveled to other places. But when you visit a place, or when you're looking around a place, what kind of tips you off that this is a place that's thriving or doing well, and what kind of things let you know or make up that decision in your mind?
Like, this is very simple. A thriving place is a place where people like to be. So you can feel it. You can feel if they feel at home, or they feel like discriminated, or like they feel unsafe. So a good public space, a good places are spaces that promote communities, health, safety, peace, happiness, and well-being. So it's a people-friendly, safe, well-connected. These are the components of a good public space. Like, should be safe, people-friendly, well-connected, accessible, welcoming, sociable, multi-use, multicultural, and interactive place. So we can say it's a place where people feel like to be, or feel at home, or feel included. And when I say talking about inclusion, like inclusive public spaces does not only mean designing a place that can include different community groups, but it's also how to involve different community groups in reshaping these spaces. This is and being inclusive should start from scratch, from the designing. So I cannot imagine that we can work on inclusive public space if we are not including the community in the designing of these public spaces. So the inclusive public space doesn't only mean like designing a good public space. It is including the community, from scratch, including them in reshaping, in designing their public space. And this is like inclusive public space.
Well, in the same way, I think you mentioned the importance of it being interactive, and so that interactivity goes back to the very beginning, that we want these interactions before we even know what the space is going to be. You need to be engaged in that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting to me, this kind of idea of feeling, and that what you're really trying to do when you're building a place or a thriving place is to create a place that makes somebody feel a particular way. In some ways, that's both really fascinating and kind of scary, because it's hard to it's hard to know how something's going to make somebody feel in some ways.
Yeah, yeah, and this is like when we call we call the public space the living room of the living room of the community. So the living room is the place when you feel in peace. You go there when you wanna rest, when you wanna chill, when you wanna watch TV, when you know. So this should be like a living room of the house.
Very good. I wonder, you've been doing this work with UN Habitat and Project for Public Spaces. Can you share one or two of the lessons that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, but it's yeah. So the challenge, I think, is to create more than a public space where people can gather. The real idea is to be able to connect people, to make sure that they engage with each other. We use placemaking as an excuse to bring different community groups together, to bring them to the same table, to encourage them to discuss which is other in order to achieve the goal. The methodology, or we use placemaking, but the goal is not placemaking, but in real it is peacemaking. And this is like either in Eastern countries like Lebanon, or Western countries like US or Europe or Canada. So, and the lessons learned that like placemaking, peacemaking requires courage and compassion, and it requires as well collaboration between and like how to join all the efforts between the local actors, And I think as a step forward, the mission of the placemaker is to become a peacemaker.
That's a powerful indictment and a call for all of us, I think, to engage and work and think a little bit differently about how we do things. I really appreciate that, and it's been such a joy to have you on, and I kind of hate to bring us to a close.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wonder if you could kind of, to wrap us up, share kind of a story that encapsulates your work or shares what you think a successful or a strong public space or community looks like.
I remember when I started working with World Vision International. I don't know if you know about this is a non-profit organization working in Lebanon. So it was many years ago. It was in 2005. So I was working in a project with them in one of the most deprived neighborhoods in Beirut, and we had a kind of project on trees plantation in the streets of this neighborhood. So of course. We did it in a participatory approach by involving the community, in the implementation in plantation of the trees and stuff. So while doing that, one little girl from the community was not believing really what was happening in her street, in her neighborhood. And this little girl, she was never being out of her neighborhood. So she came to me and asked me. She said, "Ammo, it means uncle in Lebanon." So for her, I'm like an uncle doing something improvement for her neighborhood. So she asked me, "Ammo, it's right that we will have a promenade in our neighborhood, so I can walk with my friends." For me, like her dream was bigger than the project, because I was like only planting trees to increase, greenery in the area. But for her, it was I'm creating a promenade so she can walk with her friends there. So for me, like her dream was bigger than the project in itself. But it was her only hope, for a better conditions, in better life in her community. So it's good to mention that like 10 years later, when I went back to visit this neighborhood, and I was observing how people are using. It was amazing how they were using the shady spaces, under the trees. I realized that the trees are still there in a good shape because people are taking care of these trees.
Wow.
Why they are still taking care of these trees? Because they were included, they were involved in plantation. And, of course, this is placemaking, and this is like sustainable project that I'm really convinced in implementing now in my current job.
What a amazing story to kind of end us on. That's just wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today, Rony. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Brad, for giving me the opportunity, to share my experience and to share my thoughts as well on placemaking and peacemaking.
Well, it's just wonderful. You've certainly inspired me through your writing even before we chatted today, but those of you that are interested can learn more about some of Rony's stuff by looking at Project for Public Spaces. And if you're interested more in CityWorks Expo, you can check us out at CityWorks Expo. That's xpo.com. But thank you again, Rony, and it's just been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you for listening to the Big Ideas for Better Places podcast today. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a rating. It really helps other people find out about our fascinating guests and find the information that we have to share. Lastly, please save the date for our upcoming event, October 5th through 7th in Roanoke, Virginia. And keep up to date by following us on Facebook and checking out our website, cityworksexpo.com. That's cityworksexpo.com. Thank you guys again and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.